What's going on, guys? David here once again for another video. Today it is story time with That Dude in Blue. And honestly, you guys seem to really like this kind of stuff. The last one that I did was about how I used to be in the street racing scene. And you guys found it very intriguing that a good old boy like me, who seems like a goody two-shoes, was in that lifestyle for a while. This video, I wanted to talk about something that happened after all of that. And that is this, my career. And with my career, I drive a lot of cars. In fact, on and off camera, I have driven over 1,000 different cars. But unfortunately, sometimes things go wrong. And one of the most common questions I get is, how often do cars break when you are driving them? Because I could talk all day about how cars have broken before reviews or anything like that. That happens quite often. But when it comes to me physically driving it, it's actually pretty few and far between, and I'm actually pretty happy about that. My track record is pretty good. But today, I'm gonna be talking about at least the ones on top of my head that really stand out. So let's go way back to, I believe, 2014. I drove this awesome KAT 240SX. It was 330 wheel horsepower and 330 foot-pounds of torque. Had a nice little after fire there. That was pretty badass. Actually so in love with the car that I almost asked the owner to buy it from him. In hindsight, maybe I should have, because my 240s hate my guts. This one wasn't really a break, just an unfortunate situation. So as I'm driving the car, one of the couplers pops off the intercooler. And when you pop a coupler off, typically what happens is your dash will Christmas tree or something along those lines, and the car has no power anymore. It just won't move. Almost to the point you think you blew the motor up. So I didn't freak out or anything, but the owner of the car said, I bet the coupler blew off, no worries. All right, so right now, I have to get out of the car and check the charge pipe. Okay, we're back. Yep, charge pipe into the intercooler. But now we're good. There we go. We pulled over on the side of the road, we fixed the coupler, and all was business as usual. I know, really exciting story. But I think it's important to add that we start from the less severe and we move on to the severe. But then there was the actual first time I feel as though I broke a car during a car review. Back in the day, I drove this Saab 92X. So to give you a little bit of context, the owner of this car, the guy who was going to own this car, was from Florida, and he found the car in Pennsylvania, I believe. He emails me and goes, hey David, how would you like to review this Saab 92X? It's essentially a Subaru WRX wagon that's a lot nicer. It's in disguise, basically. So he flies up, grabs the car, comes on down. He comes to Richmond, Virginia, where I used to live at the time, and we get the review done. Everything goes pretty great. I think I actually redlined the car one time, but I did do accelerations here and there around corners, stuff like that. Oh, first gear pulls real good. And the red line is at 7,000. Woo! Keep on going, keep on going, keep on going, and stop. Not anything extreme compared to my other videos, to be honest with you. Like, it was a very mellow video to shoot because I knew he had to get back to Florida. So it was very easy on the car in my mind because it was a stock car. I mean, it wasn't modified, so it shouldn't break, right? I meet up with my buddy Zach Smith, who a lot of you guys who are OGs to the channel probably remember. He had this awesome EG hatch that was dumb fast. I go, hey Zach, you wanna go grab lunch with us before this guy, you know, goes back to Florida? And we go inside, we eat lunch, everything is going absolutely perfect. And I go, hey man, you have a great trip, be safe. As soon as he turns this Saab on, freaking rod knock and like a broken bearing. Like, it was just an absolute nightmare. Whatever it was internal, and he was not going anywhere. The nearest Subaru dealership was 20 miles away. So we ended up limping this thing, barely, with the hazards on, all the way to a Subaru dealership. We get to the dealership, and they take one look at it, and they go, nope, absolutely not. Not gonna happen. So basically what happens after that is he ends up staying at my house. I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna leave you stranded. And he ends up staying at my house. We're playing video games or whatever, trying to up his spirits a little bit. And then my friend Jarrett comes over and my friend Alex comes over. And Alex had this Hawkeye STI. And he said, let's go for a drive. Well, we went for a drive, but then this happened. Well, Jarrett had a Focus ST at the time, and he decided to follow suit with that jump with all of us in the car. It was absolutely astronomically wild. The next day then goes by, we get onto a truck and trailer, and he goes home. Has your time in VA been good?
Oh yeah. It's not too bad. 12 hours of fun cars.
No. And we actually found out right afterwards that it was low on oil. And knock knock, who's there? Bearing. It is by far one of the most like awful feelings I've ever had when it comes to reviewing a car, is when something like that happens. Before I move on with the stories, I want to give a huge thanks to today's sponsor, Off the Record. Did you know that 41 million drivers get a ticket in the US every single year? That's 1 in 5 drivers, or 112,000 people a day. So your chance of getting pulled over is unfortunately pretty high, especially when you're a car person like us who likes to spiritably drive at times. But here's the problem though, only 5% of people actually contest their tickets. And here's the thing, a lot of people feel unthreatened by the ticket because the average ticket fine is about 150 bucks, which isn't cheap, but it's not life-ending. But the average insurance premiums over the next 3 years is $1,000 plus. They have contested over 70,000 tickets successfully. Basically how it works is you take a picture of your ticket, you upload it Off the Record, and then Off the Record will find you a qualified and experienced lawyer in your area. And the best thing is, they actually vet their lawyers. They actually kick off poor performers. You keep your insurance premiums low. You keep a clean driving record. There's a 97% success rate using Off the Record. It's stress-free, it gives you peace of mind. A ticket can be like the end of the world for some people, but it completely alleviates that stress. And not to mention, no court visit. So you don't have to go to court. Everything's taken care of. The lawyer will go to court for you and represent you in court. If they do not successfully either dismiss or reduce the sentence of the ticket, you get all your money back, guaranteed. So you literally have nothing to lose. And Off the Record is the ultimate tool in your toolbox. So if you use my code for 10% off, you'll be able to download the app, put in my code, and 1, it helps me. 2, at the same time, if you were to get pulled over, that discount is for the rest of the year. So you have nothing to lose to download Off the Record. So go use the code ThatDudeinBlue on the Off the Record app to get 10% off your first ticket. Next is the King RHYS Evo, one of the most viewed videos I have ever put out. Now, this was an 850 wheel horsepower Evo 10. It was supposed to be 1,000 horsepower, but unfortunately that tune or whatever wasn't working that day. I know, how unfortunate. So I drive down to Virginia Beach and I do this review. Everything goes perfect. And then at the very end, the tuner of the car who was riding with me at the time, he was kind of looking at data and everything as I was driving. He goes, "You should launch it." And I said, "Doesn't this thing have a stock differential in this thing?" And he goes, "Yeah, so?" And I'm like, that's a bad idea. I did not want to do it whatsoever. I turned on the camera and I said, if this breaks, it's not my fault, etc., etc. I end up doing it. I did one launch and everything was fine. And then he wanted me to do another one, so I did it anyway. Long story short, somehow the car was okay. I was like, oh my God, were okay, especially launching on one of those, you know, beefy clutches where you have to rev it super high to get the car to even move, right? So to launch, that's really difficult. So that happens. I'm driving back to the house. Everything goes perfect. And then the diff just decides to explode. Predictably. It was funny. This Camaro is next to me and she's waving, going, "I like your car," even though it's not my car. And I'm waving back, and as I wave back, the whole car explodes in the back. There's oil and fluids all over the street. I was so embarrassed. I felt so bad about this car. We got there, and the owner of the car, RHYS, said, "Hey man, it's an Evo." And that's all he said. And that was that. This is where I started to understand that people kind of knew the risk of the car world and knew the risk of modified cars, because he was so cool about it. He was just like, "Yeah, man, I knew the risk. I knew things could happen. I mean, look what I'm doing. I'm playing with fire with a stock differential. You know what? Let's keep the Evo thing going." Next is the G EVO. So this time it wasn't my fault per se, but it's just a fun little story that I don't think I've ever told on this channel. So back in 2014, same year, a man named Marcus is driving something called the G EVO, because when he street raced people, he would blast jazz music to basically rub it in their face as he won. He called it smooth jazz. So he invites me up to Maryland. We take the road trip to Maryland. It's this awesome Evo, man. It made tons of power. It was a lot of fun. It was my first time experiencing boost by gear in something high horsepower, and I was like, wow, this is a game changer, because you can actually hook. Okay, I'd much rather hear that than a freaking saxophone. That's Zach. Here's the thing though, Marcus goes, "How about you get used to the car? I'll give you a ride in it first." And I'm like, "Sure, no problem. I've seen him drive before. He's a very good driver. I will not mind at all." He's power shifting. He goes into fourth gear and it shreds the teeth off of fourth gear essentially. And he goes, "Huh, that's peculiar." That's all he said. That's peculiar. Didn't care about anything. He was like, "You know what? Cars break, whatever." And so that entire review, I will let you in on the secret. You will notice that I never, ever go into fourth gear in that video. I'll go first, second, third, fifth. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. But it's been so long, I thought it'd be funny to tell that story. The Dodge Omni GLH. This was easily one of the scariest cars I've ever driven, because the Dodge Omni GLH, Carroll Shelby was crazy because those axles on those were unequal. So it would tug incredibly unpredictably with torque steer, and also it would just yank so hard that you had no feedback through the steering wheel. God dang it, dude, I can't control this thing. We try and get everything done, everything's going great, but then the car decides to overheat and something goes wrong with the motor and it doesn't really want to start again somehow. So we get on the side of the road and we're there trying to start it. We can't figure it out. Unfortunately, something was really wrong. I actually don't know what actually happened, so if you're watching this, please let me know what actually happened. The car would not start up. Finally, we let it cool off. It was super hot. We got it started up again, and we limped it all the way back to a truck and a trailer, and we got so lucky. But in hindsight, not only was that car scary, it also left us stranded on the side of the highway, which in turn is scary nowadays because of people texting and driving and people getting hit.
Good news or bad news?
It's what makes a Subaru a Subaru. Honestly, there's a lot of factors involved with that car that we ended up finding out. For example, it wasn't driven a lot. It had the coil packs were 5 years old while not being driven a lot. There was a wiring issue, it had a bunch of wiring gremlins. There's all sorts of things. And as a car reviewer, you have to basically put aside that the cars that you are driving might have these underlying issues that you don't know about, right? You're taking a risk. And for example, I drove this one person's car. I'm not gonna name who it was because it'll just absolutely make them look awful, but they put my life in danger. And it was because they mounted their brake caliper wrong. And so when I braked, it would go off. And also the top hat of the coilover snapped off while I was driving. Some cars that I'm supposed to review, like catch fire the week before, or anything like that, it's a scary thought. A lot of people always ask me, how do you feel? How do you feel when a car brakes on you? You feel like crap. Of course you feel like crap, because even if it's not your fault, you still somewhat feel responsible, because in the end, cars are mechanical things, and I have a term that I use, especially now that I'm older, and it's called mechanical sympathy. If you see me go absolutely bananas in a car review, it's because the owner told me so. If you see me enjoying a car, you know, putting it through its paces, but not being irresponsible, that's me being mechanically sympathetic. I mean, let's be honest. Timmy Ford's 240SX KAT should have broke, but he told me to try and break it, right? That is something that is really impressive. When I drive somebody's car and I review it and it's a modified car and it has no issues, that just goes to show the talent of people. And it shows the talent of mechanics, tuners, maintenance. A Saab, for example, didn't have like any oil in it. And the previous owner must have never checked the oil. Perfect example. Another personal favorite is, if you never saw it, was I was off-roading in a Subaru Forester, I believe, and my friend Jim, the owner of the car, decided to do a really cool shot of him climbing a rock. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him. And there we were, stranded on a mountain, having no way out. And we ended up coasting all the way down the off-road trail and making it to the bottom of the mountain by sheer luck. Of course, that wasn't my fault. That was just a situation. And my best advice to anybody filming cars or even building cars is always search for those underlying issues. Always look for those nickel and dime things that you want to ignore because it doesn't seem as cool. It's boring to check your oil. It's boring to check coolant levels. It's boring to make sure your alignment's perfect. And this isn't me talking trash to people coming to have me review their car. It's just a fair warning. The day before a car review, if you ever do a car review with me, change nothing about your car. Stop. A lot of the times, people will go, you know what, just for the video, let me turn the boost up 2 more pounds or 3 more pounds. And they push it just enough. Night before, blow the motor, or something goes wrong with oil blow by, something catastrophic happens, and I can't make the video shoot. Tell me your stories about breaking down and being stranded. I'd love to hear them, and how did you get out of the situation? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to read these. I upload every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Make sure to hit that notification bell, and I will see you guys next time, and take it easy. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye. This video is brought to you by Patterson Car Care. Get double of premium original detail product for half the price. Head over to PattersonCarCare.com or go to the link in the description below.